Okay, yesterday we filled the first part of solving absolute value equations, and we mostly dealt with the first part and the second part, right? When you have a positive answer to your absolute value, you're going to end up with two solutions. And so we broke it down into two different equations, if you remember. And when you have a negative answer to your absolute value, then there's no way you can do that. So in this case, you're going to end up with no solution. Today, we're going to be focused on when there's a variable. So you don't really know if it's positive or negative because you don't know what that x is. And when you do that, you're going to kind of pretend like it's a positive. So you're going to set it up into two different equations. But one of those answers that you end up with might be fake. And if it's fake, we need to get rid of it. We call it an extraneous solution. Okay, that's this word right here. It means it's a fake solution. We need to get rid of it. I'm going to be honest with you, the problems are not easy. It is going to involve quite a bit of fractions. So you're just going to have to bear with it a little bit. And let's go from that. Okay. All right. So let's see. The first thing I notice is this side is isolated, but this has some weird stuff in it. So let me go ahead and just distribute that too. I'm going to get that. And make sure you write small because, man, oh man, are we going to use a lot of space on this problem. Absolute value of 3x minus 4 is equal to, when I distribute this, I end up with 6x minus 10. Okay, so I take a look and I notice that there's an x. So because that absolute value has an x, then I need to go ahead and set this up as two different problems. The first one is going to be normal. So we're going to write 3x minus 4 is equal to 6x minus 10. The second one, we're going to keep the first part the same. 3x minus 4 is equal to, but we need to take the opposite of the second side. And when I say the opposite of the second side, that means I need to change all the signs on the second side. So that 6x is going to turn into a negative 6x, and that negative term is going to turn into a positive 10. So this is my first possible solution, and this is my second possible solution, and we're just going to go ahead and solve each side. So let's see, I'm going to get rid of the smaller x, which means I'm going to subtract 3x on each side. This gives me negative 4 is equal to 3x minus 10. I'm going to add 10 to both sides. 6 is equal to 3x, divide both sides by 3. X is equal to 2. And you're going to say, what's the big deal? That wasn't that difficult. We're not done yet, but that's okay. I got my first possible answer. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to get rid of the smaller x, which in this case, which means I'm going to get rid of that negative 6x by adding 6x to each side. These are going to cancel. I get 9x minus 4 is equal to 10. We're going to add 4 to each side. I get 9x equals 14. Divide both sides by 9. I get x equals 14 over 9, and it looks like that does not simplify. And so that's my second possible solution. All right, so I have that going. And let's see. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to check our answers and make sure that they work. So right now, I think x equals 2 might work, and I think that 14 over 9 might work, but I'm not exactly sure. So I'm going to check each one of those answers. You need to check when you're doing the x version of it. So let's see. I'm going to first check 2. I'm going to say, is the absolute value of 3 times 2 minus 4 equal to 6 times 2 minus 10? 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 4 is 2. So this becomes the absolute value of 2 equals 6 times 2 is 12. 12 minus 10 is 2. Is the absolute value of 2 equal to 2? Check. So that means the first answer is valid and it works. Let's check the second answer and see if it works. And this is where some of you guys are really going to hate this. But that's okay. I mean, the fractions, you need to work with fractions. I'm going to check the 14 over 9. That's 3 times 14 over 9 minus 4 is equal to 2. Oh, sorry, guys. I guess I went with this one instead of going with this one. It doesn't matter. It should be the same thing. So I'm going to go 6 times 14 over 9 minus 10. All right. I know that these are fractions, and this is going to simplify to 1 and 3. So that becomes absolute value of 14 over 3 minus 4 is equal to, these are going to be fractions, these are going to simplify, 2 over 3. And that becomes 28 over 3 minus 10. All right, again, ugly fraction problems. I totally understand. I can't subtract these because they don't have the same denominator. So let me put a 1 underneath and let me put a 1 underneath. And unfortunately, they still don't have the same denominator. So let me go ahead and change it so that they do have the same denominator. That's going to be a 14 over 3 minus, in order to get this a denominator 3, I need to multiply top and bottom by 3. So that 4 over 1 becomes 12 over 3 equal to, and then same thing here. They don't have the same denominator, so I need to change this to a 3. I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 3. So I still have 28 over 3 minus, and when I multiply top and bottom by 3, I get 30 over 3. Okay, 14 minus 12, that is 2 over 3. Absolute value is equal to 28 minus 30 is negative 2 over 3. Is the absolute value of 2 over 3 equal to negative 2 over 3? Nope, because the absolute value of 2 over 3 is going to be 2 over 3. So this does not work. That means this answer is an extraneous solution. It's a fake answer. So I only have one answer, and if I only have one answer, I'm going to write the answer as 2. All right. Again, sometimes it's going to be a little ugly, sometimes it's not. It just depends. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the next one. First of all, I realize that the absolute value is not isolated. So right now it's being multiplied by 2. That means I need to divide everything by 2. So this gets divided by 2, this gets divided by 2, this gets divided by 2. These are going to cancel. And I get the absolute value of 5x plus 3 is equal to 4x plus 4. I notice that I have an x on my answer. So I'm going to have to check for extraneous solutions. So I'm going to pretend that I get 2 solutions. When I do the first one, it's going to stay normal. So I'm going to write 5x plus 3 is equal to 4x plus 4. That is the normal one. And then for the second one, I'm going to do the opposite one. So the first part stays the same. It's still 5x plus 3. But the second part, I need to do the exact opposite. So instead of a positive 4x, that's going to be a negative 4x. Instead of a positive 4, that's a negative 4. I'm going to go ahead and solve each set individually. So let's see. The first one, I'm going to get rid of the smaller x. I get x plus 3 is equal to 4. Subtract 3 on each side. X is equal to 1. On the other side, we're going to get rid of the smaller x. So I'm going to add 4x to each side. I get 9x plus 3 is equal to negative 4. We're going to subtract 3 on each side. 9x is equal to negative 7. Divide both sides by 9. X is equal to negative 7 over 9. And guys, what makes this problem so difficult is you're going to have to check answers that have fractions in them. And I'm sorry, but like if you don't know how to do fractions, then you shouldn't be, advancing in high school math without your fraction knowledge. So let's see. We have these 2 answers. Because they're x values, I need to check for extraneous solutions. So here's my check. I'm going to plug in 1 into my original equation. Actually, you can plug in 1 to the simplified equation. That's probably going to be a lot easier, okay? So let me plug in 1 into the simplified equation. That's going to give me the absolute value of 5 times 1 plus 3 is equal to 4 times 1 plus 4. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So absolute value of 8 is equal to 4 times 1 is 4, plus 4 is 8. Is the absolute value of 8 8? Check. That works. It looks like my first one is fine. Let's check my second one. My second answer is negative 7 over 9, and I'm going to plug it in here. So let's see. I got the absolute value of 5 times negative 7 over 9 plus 3 is equal to 4 times negative 7 over 9 plus 4. All right. Again, fraction work, it just is what it is. We're going to go ahead and put that over 1. I can multiply these. I get negative 35 over 9 plus 3 is equal to, I'm going to make this over 1 so I can multiply them. That gives me negative 28 over 9 plus 4. Adding fractions, you need to have the same denominator. Well, let's see. This is a fraction. This is a fraction. They don't have the same denominator. To make it the same denominator, I need a 9 down here. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 9. That's going to be absolute value of negative 35 over 9 plus 27 over 9 is equal to negative 28 over 9. Again, I need the same denominator, so I need to multiply this by 9 on top and bottom. That becomes a 36 over 9. Absolute value of, I'm going to add these two together, and what I end up with is negative 8 over 9 is equal to, I'm going to add these two together, and what I end up with is 8 over 9. And then I ask myself, is the absolute value of negative 8 over 9 equal to 8 over 9? The answer is yes, so this fraction actually works as well. So in this case, I did not get any fake solutions. Both of them are going to work. So I get to write both of my answers, smallest one first, negative 7 over 9, comma 1. Okay, we got 2 more left. I think thankfully these ones should be easier because the fractions are not going to be there. Hey, this one is already isolated, so great. I don't have to do any extra work to get the absolute value isolated. The first thing I notice is that I have this t in my answer, so I got a t. That means I have a variable. That means I need to check my answer once I get this done. Hey, I'm going to pretend that I got 2 answers right now. So to get the 2 answers, I'm going to need 2 equations. The first one's going to be the normal one. It's going to be 2t minus 3 is equal to 3t minus 2. That's your normal one. The other one is going to be 2t minus 3. And then I need to take the opposite of the second side. So instead of 3t minus 2, I need to change those symbols. It's going to be negative 3t plus 2. That's going to be your opposite one over here. All right, let's go ahead and solve each one. Let's see. I'm going to subtract the smaller t, which means I'm going to subtract 2t from both sides. I get negative 3 is equal to t minus 2. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I get negative 1 is equal to t. There is my first possible solution. Let's take a look at the next one. We're going to get rid of the smaller t, which means I need to add 3t to both sides. These are going to cancel. I get 5t minus 3 is equal to 2. Add 3 to both sides. 5t is equal to 5. Divide both sides by 5. T is equal to 1. Hey, no fractions on this one, but that still means you have to check. So let's go ahead and check our answer. I'm going to do that over here on the side. I'm going to check to make sure that I don't have any extraneous solutions because you saw in that first problem where one of those answers was fake. We're going to go ahead and plug it into our original equation. The first one I'm going to check is the negative 1. So I'm going to write absolute value of 2 times negative 1 minus 3. Is that equal to 3 times negative 1 minus 2? Absolute value of negative 2 minus 3 is equal to negative 3 minus 2. Negative 2 minus 3, that's going to give me the absolute value of negative 5. Negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. Is the absolute value of negative 5 negative 5? The answer is no. This does not work. And if this does not work, that means this one was an extraneous solution. This is a fake answer. This one does not work. Let's go ahead and check our other one. Let's see, the absolute value of this time I'm going to substitute the number 1. 2 times 1 minus 3 equal to 3 times 1 minus 2. Get the absolute value of 2 minus 3 is equal to 3 minus 2. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. The absolute value of negative 1, is that equal to positive 1? Is that true? Absolutely, that's true. And so in this case, t equal 1 is a solution. The negative 1 is not. I only have one answer. The answer is just 1. All right, down to our last problem. First thing I notice is that absolute value is not isolated. So let's go ahead and isolate it. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. These are going to cancel. I get 2 times the absolute value of x plus 1 is equal to x plus 1. And then everything is going to get divided by 2. So this is going to be divided by 2, divided by 2, divided by 2. These are going to cancel. Get the absolute value of x plus 1 is equal to 1 half x plus 1 half. Yeesh, that's ugly. But it is what it is. Let's go ahead and solve for it. I notice that there's an x over here. That means I might have more than one solution. Okay. Let's go ahead and set up our equations. Let's see. The first one is going to be normal. It's going to be x plus 1 is equal to 1 half x plus 1 half. And the other one is going to be x plus 1 is equal to, I got to do the exact opposite. That's going to be negative 1 half x minus 1 half. All right, let's see. I'm going to get rid of the smaller x on this side. So that means I'm going to subtract 1 half x, subtract 1 half x. These are going to cancel. If you have an x and you subtract half an x, then you're going to be left with half an x. So this is going to be 1 half x plus 1 is equal to 1 half. Similarly, let's go ahead and subtract. Yeah, similarly, if you subtract 1 from both sides, if you have half and you take away a full, then what you're left with is negative 1 half. All right, last thing I'm going to do is to get rid of the half, you need to do the opposite. Remember that when you do 1 half, you're really dividing by 2. The opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this side by 2, multiply this side by 2. These are going to cancel. You're just left with 1x, which is just x. And if you have 2 of those halves, you have 1 full one, but it's negative, so that's going to be a negative 1. All right, on the other side, let's see. On the other side, we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to get rid of the smaller half. Hey, right now you have a full x over here. When you add another half of the x, you have 1 1/2. 1 1/2 is the same thing as 3 over 2x. Plus 1 is equal to negative 1 half. I'm going to subtract 1. Again, if you have a negative 1 and you subtract the negative half, that's going to be negative 1 1/2. Negative 1 1/2 is negative 3 over 2. So this is 3 over 2x is equal to negative 3 over 2. I don't think we've done this in this class, so let's go ahead and teach it right now. Hey, when you have a fraction in front of an x, you can get rid of that fraction by multiplying both sides by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is the flip version. So if I want to get rid of a 3 over 2, I can do the exact opposite, which is multiply by 2 over 3. Now let me show you why that works. Because now you have a 2 on the top and a 2 on the bottom. And if you have a 2 on the top and a 2 on the bottom, then these 2's are going to cancel. And now you have a 3 on the top and a 3 on the bottom. If you have a 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, then these are going to cancel. And what you're left with is just the letter x. The other way you could do it, and I'm going to show you both ways. Okay, so cancel, 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 cancel. That's fine. If you're going to try to cancel, 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 cancel here, that'll work as well. You just need to know that the answer is going to be 1. Okay, but if you don't like that because you cancel, 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 and you don't see a number, you just see a negative, then the other way you could have done it is you can just multiply. Like literally just multiply. This is going to be 3 times 2, which is 6. And this is going to be 2 times 3, which is 6. And negative 6 over 6 is just 1. The same thing happened here, guys. This is 6 over 6. That's 6 over 6x, which is the same thing as 1x, which is the same thing as x. Okay, so I don't care how you think about it. Technically, when you have those reciprocals of each other, you're going to collapse and it just become 1. Okay. All right, I got my two answers, except for those two answers are really just the same answer. I got x equals -1 and I got x equals -1. That was kind of weird, but that's okay. That happens sometimes. Which means I just need to check one more answer, right? I just need to check the -1. So let's check to make sure that that answer works. Man, we got it twice. It better work. If not, I don't have any solutions. But let's just check. I'm going to plug in -1 into my original equation. That's going to be 2 times the absolute value of -1 plus 1 minus 3 is equal to -1 minus 2. All right, in the middle, I got -1 plus 1, that's 0. So this is 2 times the absolute value of 0 minus 3. And -1 minus 2, that's a -3. 2 times the absolute value of 0 is 0. Times 2 is still 0. So really I have 0 minus 3 is equal to -3. Yep, that's true. And so that must be my solution. And so my only answer is -1. All right, those are all the notes for today. Hopefully that helped you with your fraction work because we haven't done a lot of fractions so far. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to ask.